Hello again, everyone. It is your Lord and Savior of MTG Arenas, the Sloth God, and I'm here to showcase another deck that I made pretty recently, an archetype that you probably already recognize from the name, Ponza, that is a functionable archetype in every format except for Standard, basically. There are Ponza decks in Vintage, Legacy, EDH, Modern, and in Standard it just hasn't really taken off because Wizards pretty much does everything they can to make land destruction very bad in Standard. Every land destruction card that has ever been printed is usually pretty trash, 4 mana or more, because land destruction just isn't very fun. And I think people don't like playing against land destruction, so Wizards just doesn't like to print good land destruction cards, so it never takes the forefront at any events or anything like that. But I think every Standard format since Cons of Tarkir, I would say, which is when I started Cons and Dragons, I would say I've tried to make land destruction work. Back in Kaladesh, I did it pretty well with Temur because there was a lot of spell cost reducing and things like that. But this time around, I think there's a lot of good ramp in Standard right now, and that's really just what you need to have to get to the land destruction spells that were given. So I just kind of threw together a deck that was a lot of ramp, a lot of land destruction, and then a few spells that really care about ramp to take advantage of the fact that we're already doing this for this busted purpose, so why don't we do it for the real purpose as well. As you can see, we're starting off with 4 Llanowar Elves for ramp, 3 Druid of the Cowl, 1 Incubation Druid, 2 Grow from the Ashes, and 3 Gruul Locket because card draw is a bitch in this deck. The last few games that I played, I had no Gruul Lockets, I had no Tormenting Voices, and it was just not drawing any cards and running out of gas super fast, even though we were doing cool things. The other problem is we tend to get run over by aggro, so the deck needs to be more control than traditional land destruction decks in different formats, because you can't just lean in super heavy on the land destruction. You have to have other ways to get around the deck. We're mostly using the land destruction as a way to nerf our opponent, not completely run them out of lands for the entire game, but we can get to that point with a couple specific cards. So for removal, 2 Lava Coils, 2 Fight with Fires, and for artifact destruction, we have Demolish, which is just another land destruction spell. Ravager Worm is good removal, fights anything. Haphazard Bombardment is removal against any permanent, and as long as they're not enchantments, obviously. And it can also work as a really good ramp or land destruction piece. I would run more if you have them, or you have the rares to make it if you want to build the deck. They work a lot better in multiples because once you get down to 1 permanent with a counter on it, it no longer destroys anything, so you basically just get 6 mana, destroy 3 permanents over 3 turns, instead of getting the full 4 value out of it and more if you have multiples. Because the counters will still stay on, even if there's only 1 counter on a permanent on the battlefield. The other land destruction would be Memorial to War, which is just a land with a land destruction text on it. Seismic Shift, the 2 blocking creatures, doesn't really matter, it's just a 4 mana land destruction spell. Demolish, which we've already talked about, deals with problem artifacts that are ramping and lands. And Rubble Reading is by far the best, and that is saying something, land destruction spell in Standard. Just 4 mana, casual, just like all the others, except it scries 2. Scrying 2 is probably the best ability tacked on to a land destruction spell that I've seen in a while, even though it doesn't really look that good. But we're going to be ramping into it. It should be coming down at least by turn 3, if not a little earlier. I don't think we can get it by turn 2, but it will be coming down turn 3, all these land destruction spells, and then Haphazard Bombardment hopefully by turn 4 or 5. For big things, big threats, what you really need are threats that demand an answer and control the board after they hit the ground if they don't get answered. So Atali, really good for us to double up on land destruction spells, or double up on heavy threats, or get some extra ramp off, and we can obviously play from our opponent's deck. Biogenic Ooze, if you've ever played with this card or you've ever been beaten by this card, you know how much of a powerhouse it is. Once it hits the board, if it doesn't get answered, it just makes your entire board so wide and so tall at the same time. Multiples, it's not legendary, so multiples just go absolutely insane. So Biogenic Ooze is an automatic include, and getting it on turn 3 sometimes just results in an instant scoop, even if they're curving out with their creatures. If you get this on turn 3, you're likely to just win the game if it's not answered. Skargan Hellkite, another creature that if put down on turn 3 can kind of just control the game for the rest of the upcoming turns, unless they drop something incredibly huge. 4 mana isn't too much of a problem for us if we're already at 5 and we're just continuing to draw ramp cards for the rest of the game. We can double up, triple up triggers on this and just wipe out small creatures, deal damage to planeswalkers, or at the very least deal damage to our opponent. I'm going to say like 8 to 9 times out of 10 you want the counter instead of the haste in this deck, because we're planning on controlling and going a little bit of a long game. Jaya Ballard, a really interesting card for this deck, and one that I've seen in almost every land destruction deck that I've looked at. But immediately when I thought of land destruction, I thought Jaya Ballard would be perfect. She adds mana for instants and sorceries, which is all of our land destruction spells. She helps us loot through cards that we don't need anymore, so we're obviously ramping a lot. We don't need as many lands. We draw into actual action, and then her ultimate gives all of the spells in our deck before and after we cast them flashback. So we just get to play all of our land destruction spells after they've been in our graveyard, completely take our opponent out of resources, and then every instant sorcery we cast after her emblem comes down also gets the flashback. So we have more ramp to go fight with. We have more removal to fight with. We have a lot more options when Jaya Ballard is ultimating. So that's kind of the main plan, is try to get Jaya Ballard to get there, or just nerf our opponent enough that our big threats can get there. In the sideboard, we have a little more removal. We have a plan against aggro, because really fast red, white, and blue aggro are probably our biggest problems. So Root Snare is just good to nerf the biggest damage that they're going to get through us. We have Zerta Goblin, Gruul Spellbreaker, Registrar Alpha, and Carnage Tyrant to just go a little more on the aggro plan. Because we're Gruul and because we already have a lot of ramp, these cards just kind of work in our favor if we choose to sideboard out a lot of the land destruction. Fiery Cannonade for token and small creature decks is just an obvious include. It does kill our mana dorks except for Druid of the Cowl or an adapted Incubation Druid, but I think that's kind of worth it against a deck that's just beating down with 5, 6, 7, 2 toughness or 1 toughness creatures. And then another Fight with Fire. Fight with Fire is just perfect in the deck because being able to deal 5 damage to a creature in the early game is fine, but we get to the kicker pretty quickly, and dividing 10 damage among any number of creatures or players or planeswalkers is just a board wipe in red. It's just a board wipe in red. Even though it is 9 mana, it's still a board wipe in red, and even if it's not a board wipe in red, it just happens to be really good removal in the early game and fair damage to the face in the late game. So let's hop into some play. We're just going to do 3 average play games and see where we can go with this deck. I'm pretty excited. I love Ponza. I love destroying opponents' lands, but I like to do it in a way that isn't super broken and doesn't do it on like turn 2. Because then your opponent just scoops and nobody's having fun and nobody's playing Magic, so you gotta kind of make it in a way that you have to think about what you're gonna destroy and control the board in ways other than just nuking lands. So yeah, it's interesting. We'll see how well it does. Ooh, not a great hand. The best we can probably do is turn to Tormenting Voice to... Yeah, it wasn't worth it. This is better. So now we can Llanowar, hopefully draw a land. That's not a land. So if we have to, we can just turn 2 grow. But if we get a land, I think we just wait. Okay, yeah, we just wait. They're not doing anything. Let's attack. Oh, well, that's sad. Okay, we did get another land. They look like they're off of lands. So we have to get to this rubble reading as fast as we possibly can. Yeah, they have no lands. This is really great. Because no one expects land destruction in Standard. Nobody. They're just like, oh, we'll top deck a land soon. Yeah, see? Oh, we didn't do anything. We played a Llanowar Elves and a Rubble Reading, and we won the game. Let's fire up again. What a rage-inducing deck this must be to play against. I've never, ever, ever, ever seen anyone on Arena play Land Destruction before, so I'm kind of excited to see what people's reaction to it is, if they just start scooping if we get them off early enough, or if they try to fight through. Oh, there's a Rubble Reading. That's Tormenting Voice, discard a mountain. Would have loved to have those turn 1 and 2, but that's fine. Maybe we can just nuke their white source and... Oh, okay. So turn 3 Planeswalker isn't great for us. As I mentioned, we're not the best at dealing with Planeswalkers. But we got some ramp now. We can just Biogenic Ooze and try to beat through this Dovin. Or if they don't play a land, I think we might Rubble Reading and drop another elf. And they're really going on the tokens. They're not plussing him at all. Fight with Fire is great for later. So let's Rubble Reading their white. Hope it doesn't get countered. It looks like they could be leaving up a counter. Nope. Nice, and we will keep Rootbound on top, but that's it. Play this elf.
This is no mere trinket.
Here he goes. So he's up to 4. So Rootbound Crag. We have 5, 6, 7 mana. Maybe just run out Ooze. Disgusting noises he makes. Run out Druid. What does he ult at? 7? Okay, run out Druid. Counters on the things. They have no white mana, so no hard removal unless they draw some. This is interesting. We haven't pulled much land destruction, but we can just selectively use it to keep them off of their colored mana. There we go. We win the game. That is just the best feeling. Didn't even attack with a single creature that game. So, let's look at that later. Well, we already got 2 out of 3, but they were kind of hate scoops, so I don't feel like I've gotten enough play out of the deck yet. So if this one goes fast, I'll probably do 1 or 2 more. Not bad. God, I wish we had more of these. This card is so nice. So, Memorial to War tapped. Okay, if it's mono red, they got off to a bad start, and we get down to Druid, which is pretty great. Alright, so it is mono red. Ooh, so now we can Gruul Locket, Lava Coil the Steamkin before it does anything. That's not bad at all. And now next turn we can Biogenic Ooze and just start making blockers forever. We can still Biogenic Ooze and just start making blockers forever. Scoop opponent. You already used your Lightning Strike on a Mana Dork. So if you don't have another right now, you're kind of in trouble. 3 mana Skewer. Oh! We're gonna get so far out of their creature removal range if yeah, if they don't have Lava Coil like right now, then we are in a very, very good position. X1 Banefire, that is spicy. Spicy tech. I want to just grow from the ashes, but do I also want to demolish? Keeping them off of 2 lands would be really annoying, but I think making more chump blockers with Biogenic Ooze as quick as possible is probably the best way to go. So let's get 2 forests. Get ready to make some chumpers here soon. But I mean, we already have lethal on board with just Biogenic Ooze. And they have a Pyromancer, nice. So what can they even do here? We could just haphazard bombardment all their stuff. So what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So first step, make a token. Second step, demolish a land. Third step, swing for 10. Chumps. No chumps. Down to 4. Counters on everything. 2 mana, 1 Gutter Snipe. We have a chumper. Banefire us for 1 again. Deal 2. Good game, opponent. Okay. So 3 for 3 so far. That one went pretty fast, so I'll throw in 1 more and then we'll open the pack and I'll call it a video. By the way, if anybody who watches this is interested, if you haven't seen me on Reddit or you haven't seen me on my Twitter, those both are in my YouTube channel about description. And I think you can find the information for my YouTube and my Twitter and my Reddit on any of those 3 sites. So if you find me on Reddit, you can find my YouTube and Twitter. If you find my Twitter, you can find my YouTube and Reddit, so on. I'm going to keep a bad hand, because I want to, well, it didn't. I wanted to see how a bad hand went, but this turned out pretty nice for us. I think we might just kill their white source after seeing that. So let's seismic shift that white land. Because now we can set up for like Gruul Locket, Tormenting Voice if we want. Elf. So Gruul Locket. Nice, there's Biogenikus. Let's run this game out. Ooh. That is a big problem. Big problem. That we will deal with after we drop Biogenikus. We'll make them have the answer before we have to answer. We're also at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana, so we're only 2 mana away from firing off this fight with fire and just wiping their board. Lock it, nice. 3 mana, like Mortify, nope. Interrest. Yeah, they'll get the flyers after we do that, but I think it's probably worth it to kill the Seraph. Oh! Well, now it's definitely worth it to kill the Seraph, but they can give it Death Touch. Does Death Touch work on fighting? Hopefully I don't time out, but I gotta look something up. Alright. So we don't want to do that. Let's just run out the Gruul Locket. Run out a fight with fire targeting Seraph. And then run out a Druid of the Cowl. So we can get a lot of green. For these Biogenic Ooze triggers. Save Ravager Worm for something else dangerous, I guess. Ooh hoo hoo. That's something. That's something spicy right there. Let's Ravager Worm. We won't give it haste. Do they have a land? No. We have a land, that's why it's giving us the option. If you ever play this deck, don't choose that by accident. You do not have the extra land that it's making you think you do. Or you do not have the option to kill a land that it's making you think they'd have. Kaya! We don't have anything you can kill, Kaya.
I heard you had some dead things that needed to stay there. Don't you hate it when the dead won't
Fuck, we have a token, that's right. Look at me being knowledgeable. What a weird time to need Demolish. Jaya is not bad. Planeswalker for Planeswalker.
Time to set something on. I know the time to.
Yeah, we're going to be giving them flyers no matter what we do, but we really don't want our tokens. What happens here? They get 2 flyers, they are all 3/3s, we get hit for 9, and we lose. Otherwise, it takes this 1 token 3 turns to kill us. And now we can't chump Minister. I should have done this earlier. Now we can't chump Minister with the Druids. So we're in a pretty tough spot here. Yeah, and now they can start exiling our spells, so we can't even cast them back with Kaya or Jaya if we get there. Kaya and Jaya. Kaya, Jaya, spelled the same. Same person. Magic conspiracy theory. I mean, might as well block because we're going to die from the flyers anyway. Like, we have no way around this. Lava Coil would have been a way if we would have let that Minister go through, but then we would just die to this one. If we would have left up a Druid to chump block the Minister, then we would have had Lava Coil. Let's just show them what we can do at least. I mean, we're a Gruul land destruction deck, I'm sure somebody out there is interested. In standard, it's 1-3 in a row. It's gotta be good, right? It's good for something. Die, Kaya. And I will let them have the satisfaction of beating us to death because I honestly thought we had this game locked. Come and get me, boys. Okay. Well, that's a pretty fun deck, to be honest. If we had a little more card draw, maybe a little more interaction, it might be a little better, obviously. I think I'm worried about taking it into sideboards, like traditional play, because even though our sideboard is pretty well stacked to like transition into a different type of deck and deal with a couple other pretty imperative problems, like Fiery Cannonade would be really good against that deck that we just played. Just kill all their tokens. If you wanted to not have the transitional sideboard plan, you could just take out a couple of these things, like Gruul Spellbreaker, Regisaur Alpha. I think Carnage Tyrant or multiple Carnage Tyrants is still correct. But you can switch them out for enchantment removal, like we just saw. And if you play against Temur Reclamation a lot, enchantments are pretty high value targets at this point in standard. But lands are always high value targets, so if you want to make your play group unhappy or mess around with your FNM or your arena commons and uncommons and weird rares that you want to slot in for no reason but still make people instant scoop because you just keep annoying them with land destruction, then try it out, play it. Tell me what you think in the comments or anywhere else. I'm always up for criticism, like it or don't. And talk to you guys later.